All right, ladies, welcome. Happy Friday. I am really excited for today and our dairy-free ice cream bars. Oh my gosh, they are so good. All right, ladies, welcome. Happy Friday. I am really excited for today and our dairy-free ice cream bars. Oh my gosh, they are so good. I no lie there. So I'm going to start by making the coating for the chocolate coating that goes on the bars because I want to put it on the stove and let it heat up so I can show you. So this is cacao butter. So cacao butter, you can see, comes in chunks. There looks like little white rocks or ivory colored rocks. And you use about a cup of that. I'm making a double recipe because I got lots to coat and I want to do a double coating. This one you can buy in the store. The brand that I found is Organic Traditions. This is the brand. This is their cacao powder. I've used other cacao powder, but this is raw cacao powder. But this is the brand that I found for the cacao butter. And what this does is we melt it, and then when it cools, it solidifies. That gives us that chocolate coating. Now, if in the recipe, if you don't have cacao butter, you don't want to use that, which is what I prefer, you can melt some chocolate and not milk chocolate, no dairy. This is no dairy. So I'm putting this on low to melt it. And it has to be low because what I did before, when I was practicing, the heat was too high and the liquid, once the cacao butter melted, and I added the chocolate and I got a big glommy mess. It was not nice and not nice to clean up. So while we're waiting for that to melt, right now it's on the stove to melt, I am going to make our filling, which is the ice cream bar. And if you don't even have to put the chocolate on, it's good just the way it is. So I have my Vitamix or high-speed blender here. I'm going to add a cup of cashews. These have been soaked for about 4 or 5 hours. And the soaking does two things. First, it softens the cashews so that when the cashews soften, then they'll be softer and you won't get a grainy texture to it's not a sauce, but your filling. And the other thing is there are enzyme inhibitors on nuts and seeds. So by soaking them, you're removing those enzyme inhibitors. And I didn't save my soaking water today, but you can see it's quite dirty when it's soaked. And so I've got my cashews that are soaked. I will put in. If you are allergic to nuts, you can add sunflower seeds instead. I have a couple of bananas here I'm going to add in. So this will give sweetness as well as nutrients and creaminess. If you can freeze them as well and put frozen bananas in. That's fine. That's actually works really well to use frozen bananas.
I was going to ask that.
Yeah. So what I do with my bananas, I've done both ways. So what I'll do because our family is not banana eaters. I'm not crazy about bananas, but we'll use them in smoothies and stuff like this. I don't mind them for this. What I'll do if they're getting like way too ripe, I'll do one of two things. If I don't have time, I'll just throw them with the skin on into the freezer. And then you can thaw it out and peel the skin off. It's a little bit tedious to do that. The other thing I'll do is peel them, cut them in half, and just freeze them. Put them in a container and freeze them just like that. So there's our banana. We're going to add in 3/4 of a cup I've got oat milk. Any kind of plant milk is good. You could use soy, you could use almond milk, whatever you want. I have some dates. I had 4 dates here. So you can use 3 or 4, whatever gives you the sweetness that you want. So I've got 4. I did 4 for this one. And when I have bigger dates, I might do 3. And so all I've done is I've taken the pit out and I've sectioned them into 4 so it's easier for them to blend up. And I'm going to add a little bit of vanilla extract. And then, of course, I got to add my chocolate. So I'm just going to add, it's about a teaspoon of chocolate, vanilla extract. And then I have 3 tablespoons of chocolate powder. So this is the cacao powder. And this is an amazing antioxidant. Cacao and chocolate is one of the best antioxidants, boy. The reason why chocolate tends not to be good for us is when you buy the chocolate in the store, it's full of dairy, it's full of sugars, it's full of waxes, and not the natural stuff. That's what most of us are eating, and it's not great for us. All right. So while I do that, doing these different things all at the same time, my cacao butter, it's pretty much melted, just a little bit. And again, don't overheat it. You won't like the result. And so to make my chocolate sauce, I've got my cacao butter. I don't know if you can see here. Let me bring it a little closer. Can you see it? It looks like oil now. I've got that color of foil, a darker oil. And I'm going to add a cup of cacao powder here. And this is when I added this and it was too hot. It just went, it made the sizzling sound. And then it just all glommed together. It was not pretty. And then I'm adding in half a cup of maple syrup. And you can adjust the sweetness of the maple syrup to your liking. If you like your chocolate more bitter, you could do less, you can do more. And I'm going to add a little bit more vanilla extract here. Same thing, about a teaspoon. And just stir it up. And here's your chocolate sauce. And as it cools, it will thicken up. And I'm just using a whisk to mix it in here. And if it gets too thick, you can just heat it up again. And it's that cacao butter that I showed you that looks like little rocks. Mm-hmm. That is why it thickens and it hardens, is because of that. Now, if you put your hands on it, your hands will get it will melt in your hands, this chocolate. You can temper it if you want, but I think that's not needed. So I don't do that. But I've never tried it. But if you wanted to, you could try tempering it, and then that makes it shinier. And it also then makes it more, it doesn't melt in your hands the same way. So I have a little bit of parchment paper for the mess. And what I'm going to do is make a little bit of almond. I toasted some almonds. So if you toast almonds in the oven at about 325 to 350 for about 10 minutes until you can smell the golden, the fragrance. And then what you can do is either crush them up with a rolling pin or something heavy. I have let me put this on the side. I have a little mini Cuisinart processor. So I'm just going to use that. And I'm going to chop up some, I don't use this very much, but this is perfect for it. And so I'm going to chop up some of the almonds that I roasted, and I can put them on the outside of my nuts or on my bars after I put the cacao chocolate sauce on. And I'm going to add just a touch of the cacao powder. And what that will do is because almonds have they're beautiful omega-3 fatty acids in them. And so I'm just putting a little bit in there, like a dusting, so that it will, when the oils won't make this nuts glom together. And so let me just chop those up. And you could use your big food processor. You could just, like I said, crush them up yourself. You don't have to go have a fancy little thing like I have. So I've got my nuts and I'm just going to pour them on a thing so I can make these nut bars. Again, this is an option. You don't have to do this, but gives it a little extra flavor to it. And then yesterday I made some, and I've got two ways I did it in a popsicle with a popsicle stick thing. You can buy molds that are like silicone molds on their side. This needs, I think, a little bit to cool. It's still a little bit too frozen. So I'm going to start. If you don't have a popsicle mold or you don't have those silicone molds, you can put it in. I have a little baking tray. I just put some parchment paper into the baking tray and voila, I've got it's big. It's about, I did it about a half an inch thick, but what I can do, it started to melt.
Where did you get your silicone popsicle mold?
I think these were a free gift from Superstore last year. And these aren't silicone, this is just hard plastic. So I saw, where was I? Winners had a ton of these. So for Canadians, Winners had a ton of these. I was looking for their silicone ones that are on their side. So you pour it in flat and you put the stick in and then you just pull them out. But those, I saw those on Amazon. They were pretty expensive, I thought. Okay, let me do one of these ones first. So you can just, this one's starting to melt a little more. You can see it's melting. So you can put this, just make little bite-sized bits if you want. Eyes are up. Ladies. Just do one. I'm just going to, this one I could dip right in. And then I'm going to add some. Dip it into my chocolate and then it starts to harden. And then I'm just going to add some nuts to it. All right. Add that. And I want to put this back in the fridge or in the freezer. Let me get my mold here. I'm just going to take this and it's slippery, but it's hard on the one side there. I'm just going to put this back in the freezer so it'll freeze up and then we can coat it a second time. Okay, come on, popsicles. Let's go. Of course, let's let this settle for another minute. There's going to be a point where it's going to melt too much, of course. What you can do is what I did is run this under like this backside, add some hot water to it, and then they'll come out. I was hoping, to be honest, they would thaw so that I could get them out, but we'll let them thaw a little bit more and then they should be okay. So I'm bouncing back and forth, but I'm going to go back to my sauce. Here's the sauce. I'm just going to blend this. That's it.
When you're saying sauce, that's actually the filling, the bar you made?
That should be enough. It's nice and creamy. Oh. Look at that. Nice. And you can eat it like this. Or you know what I was doing? I was eating the one out of I put in the baking pan. So good. So I'm just going to, and what you could do, hang on, is if you have a nice tall glass, you could put it, like you put it in a tall glass and just dip it in. And I'm just going to coat it on here.
Forget it.
Whee. get it coated nice and thick. And I want to get the nuts on before it hardens. And then I can take that, maybe a little bit too much nuts right there. I'll put a little bit on the end. I'm going to stick this in the freezer. And now this one has had a chance to freeze a little bit, so I can coat it again. And then that way the nuts are in the coating. And I've got that now. I can put that back in the freezer and it'll be ready to eat. Just like that. Yum. And I'll do the same with the other one. I got lots of coating to do, lots of chocolate bars, chocolate dairy bars or non-dairy bars today. This one's been coated twice now here, and it's ready to eat. So I will let it thaw for a few minutes and then I can eat it. Just pour this into the mold and let it freeze overnight. And that's it. That's all there is to it. And I think Kathy, yeah, so it is a yummy treat. I am not a big chocolate fan, but I'm going to put this back in the freezer. I'm not a big chocolate fan, but I'll eat this any day.
So I guess theoretically, you could have different chocolate type toppings. I've seen them in the store recently where they have a dark chocolate and a milk chocolate. And I know we don't want to have that type of chocolate, but that would be interesting to pursue as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so you could, if you want, just take chocolate chips or a chocolate bar and watch your ingredients. There are some really good pure ingredient type chocolate bars. You can melt that and add a little bit of say coconut oil to thin it out a bit. And I've got that in the recipe. So here's the bar I started with that I coated with nuts. This is like the homemade job. And you could, if you have a thing, you can dip it. And there it is. And because it's leaking down my hand. Woo. But now I can put this in the freezer and package them up. That chocolate needs to be wiped off. All right, let me move you guys here. And I got Mary joining. Okay. Yeah, so let me get, so when you do it, you'll do the molds or put it in a box or in a container and freeze it. And then once it's frozen, it's like a couple of hours, I would say, but make sure it's frozen. And then you put your first coating of chocolate and you can add nuts. And I did almonds. You could add pecans, walnuts, pistachio, whatever you want, if you're good for that. You could probably add some fruit to it if you want. And then once that's done and melted and frozen, then you just coat it a second time. So here's my finished one. And
Debbie, do you prefer the molds to the pan method or?
so I think if you have the molds, it's great to use them.
Yeah, you have something to hang on to
Exactly.
eat it. Yeah.
It's going to be messier, but you know what I did, Gloria, with the one that was in the pan? I didn't even bother putting the chocolate. I ate it just like it was.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I just cut it into little chunks and slivers, and I was able to just eat it like that.
Yeah, or put them on a little plate and serve them that way. Yeah.
And there's my little chocolate came off. And yeah, if you give it a few minutes to melt, it's a perfect texture. And the chocolate does enhance it for sure, but the filling on its own is delicious just on its own. So it's up to you how you want to do it. You could do it all ways, right? So let's get the recipe here. I got you the link for the recipe. And I've got at the bottom, if you don't have the cacao butter, you can just use like a milk chocolate or chocolate chips. And I think they have more, but be careful. I was looking in Superstore yesterday at the chocolate and chocolate chips. And a lot of them already have sugar in them. So you wouldn't want to put any sugar in those, like the maple syrup. The ones I was looking at had cane sugar in them. So maple syrup is definitely better than the cane syrup because it has the or cane sugar. It's got the minerals and everything. But it's possible to do it that way as well. And you could play around with your toppings if you want. And when I was doing this, it was taking me back to when I was a kid. And we used to go to Dairy Queen and you could get the chocolate dip cone. I liked the butterscotch dip cone. So I'm thinking, can I make a butterscotch dip? So I haven't tried, but maybe that'll be next, is to make that. But yeah, this is a really great way to enjoy this, like the hot, humid days, like Kathy said in Maryland or here in Toronto. And I'm just grateful that today isn't so hot and humid. It's only medium hot and humid. So everyone, thank you for joining today. I hope that you get a chance to make these dairy-free bars.